What exactly was the origin of the ancient heavenly serpent's ancestor? And why did he know that Kai Lin came from the Dochi continent? If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Continuing from the previous chapter, above a bottomless abyss on the relic continent, Xiaoyan stood suspended in mid-air, black robes fluttering softly in the turbulent currents rising from below. His gaze pierced through layers of darkness as he looked into the depths, sensing the faint yet ancient aura lingering there. Still not out of closed-door cultivation, he murmured quietly. His voice faded into the void. The next instant space trembled. With a slight shift of his figure, Xiaoyan vanished from where he stood and transformed into a streak of light, plunging straight into the abyss like a falling meteor. This was the very place where he and Kai Lin had first arrived upon entering the lost continent, the moment she had felt that mysterious call deep within her bloodline, a summons ancient primal, irresistible. As he descended 100,000 zhang into the chasm, the surrounding space began to warp violently. Spatial currents twisted like coiling serpents, tearing and folding over themselves in chaotic layers. Even an ordinary Supreme Realm expert would have struggled to advance here. Xiaoyan finally came to a halt. His eyes narrowed as he carefully observed the distorted space before him. After a brief moment of analysis, realization dawned. Beyond this shattered spatial barrier lay the Inheritance Cave Mansion. Yet what truly occupied his thoughts was not the danger of the spatial storm. It was Kai Lin. What kind of divine beast's bloodline could possibly resonate so strongly with her? Could it be another nine-colored heaven-swallowing python, or something even older? A thought suddenly surfaced in his mind. He recalled what Ye Tianlian and the others had once mentioned, the legend of the ancestor of the ancient void dragon, tribe and existence that did not originally belong to the great thousand world. A faint glimmer flickered in Xiaoyan's eyes. Could this fallen divine beast also be the same? Not a native of the great thousand world, but a being who had ascended from a lower plane. If so, that meant the secrets hidden within this abyss were far greater than a mere bloodline inheritance. One question led to another, weaving together into a growing web of speculation. Xiaoyan slowly exhaled. He understood clearly acting rashly would only cloud the truth. Instead of entering the Inheritance Cave, he chose to remain outside. Suspended in mid-air, he folded his legs and closed his eyes. His aura gradually receded, blending with the surrounding darkness as his mind began rapidly sorting through every fragment of information he had gathered in recent days. The ancient void dragon legends, the migration of ancient powerhouses, the mysteries surrounding ascended Dodi, the strange silence of history. Piece by piece, he attempted to connect the scattered fragments into a complete picture. Time passed unnoticed. One day turned into two into three. For several days, Xiaoyan remained motionless, like an ancient statue overlooking the abyss. But what he did not know was that deep within the Inheritance Cave Mansion, something had already begun to unfold. A truth buried for tens of thousands of years was quietly awakening. Yet Xiaoyan had no idea what was unfolding within the Inheritance Cave. Beyond the twisted layers of space lay a desolate world, silent and lifeless, as if time itself had long abandoned it. The sky was dim and ashen, the land cracked and barren, stretching endlessly beneath a suffocating stillness. 18 colossal black stone pillars rose from the earth like ancient sentinels. Each pillar was etched with archaic patterns, their surfaces weathered by countless years. Streams of faint energy connected them, weaving together into a vast and enigmatic grand array that pulsed with a slow, ancient rhythm. At the very heart of this formation stood two awe-inspiring sights. One was the enormous skeleton of a dragon python, its bones dark and imposing, coiled even in death with an air of supreme dominance. Though stripped of flesh and blood, an oppressive aura still lingered around it. Proof that in life, it had once been a terrifying existence capable of shaking the heavens. The other was a towering stone stele several thousand zhang in height. Its surface was covered in countless mysterious symbols that flickered faintly, as if containing secrets sealed away for 10 millennia. After waiting 10,000 years, has a descendant of my clan finally arrived? A hoarse and ancient voice echoed across the barren land, heavy with the weight of endless time. Atop the stone stele, an old man in a brown robe sat cross-legged. His figure appeared frail, yet he radiated an indescribable majesty. His eyes, deep and ancient, were fixed on the space before him. There, a slender figure slowly approached. It was Kai Lin. As her gaze met the old man's, her pupils trembled slightly. Shock filled her eyes. The reason was simple. From the depths of her bloodline, she felt a resonance, a power astonishingly similar to her own, yet infinitely purer and more ancient. It was as if her own bloodline was merely a diluted branch of something primordial. That overwhelming presence did not suppress her through cultivation or spiritual power. Instead, it pressed down directly upon the very origin of her being, stirring her instincts into reverence. In that instant, Kai Lin understood. The existence before her was absolutely not a mere 9-colored heaven-swallowing python. He was something older, something higher, a being that stood at the very origin of the serpent lineage recorded in the ancient legends of the Du Qi, continent, a supreme divine beast whose name had long been buried beneath the dust of time. In the ancient beast records of the great thousand world, among the heavenly ranking of divine beasts, the one placed 32nd was known as the ancient heavenly serpent. And in the far older legends of the Du Qi continent, the ancient heavenly serpent was revered as the primordial ancestor of supreme serpent bloodlines, forefather to beings, such as the 9-nether earth serpent clan and the 9-colored heaven-swallowing python, a name buried beneath the dust of countless ages, a lineage standing at the origin of serpentine supremacy. You are the ancient heavenly serpent? Kai Lin asked, her voice steady, yet unable to conceal the faint tremor within. The old man's lips curved into a calm smile. Correct, he replied evenly. But I am not merely an ancient heavenly serpent. A brief pause. I am the ancestor of all ancient heavenly serpents. The words fell like thunder in Kai Lin's mind. Her pupils contracted sharply. The progenitor of the ancient heavenly serpent. That was not merely a legendary beast, that was the source of an entire bloodline, an existence that should have vanished into myth long ago. How could such a being still remain in this world? Hard to believe. The old man asked softly, a trace of amusement flickering across his ancient eyes. Before Kai Lin could respond, the atmosphere shifted. A terrifying pressure descended without warning. It did not roar. It did not explode outward violently. Instead, it seeped into existence like an invisible tide, silent, inescapable, absolute. This was not the oppression of spiritual power, nor was it the crushing force of cultivation. It was something far more fundamental. Bloodline suppression, an authority rooted at the very origin of life. In that instant, Kai Lin felt her blood tremble within her veins. The 9-colored, heaven-swallowing python lineage she had always taken pride in seemed to recoil instinctively, as though encountering its primordial sovereign. It was not fear born of weakness. It was reverence carved into the marrow of existence. Her breathing slowed. Her expression turned solemn. Without resistance, without hesitation, Kai Lin lowered her head and knelt on one knee. Respect. Absolute and instinctive. Only now did she truly understand. The old man had not spoken falsely. This was not a mere remnant spirit boasting of past glory. The complete, all-encompassing suppression over her 9-colored heaven-swallowing python bloodline was undeniable proof. Even if he were not the true progenitor, he was at the very least an existence standing at the same level as that ancient origin. Kai Lin greets the ancestor of the heavenly serpent. She lowered her head and offered a respectful salute, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. Perhaps too much time has passed, the old man said with a faint sigh. The years have eroded even my memories. Your bloodline does indeed originate from me. Yet I can no longer recall which branch you belong to. There was no arrogance in his tone, only the quiet loneliness of someone who had existed for far too long. With a gentle wave of his sleeve, the oppressive bloodline pressure dissipated like mist. "It has been a very long time since I last spoke to anyone," he continued calmly. "If you have come to inherit my legacy, then do not rush. Sit. Speak with me first." Kai Lin stepped forward and sat cross-legged before him. "This junior is of the nine-colored heaven-swallowing python lineage," she said respectfully. "However, in the lower plane where I reside, our bloodline has gradually declined over the years." The old man's gaze sharpened slightly. "Lower plane? You speak of the Du-Chi continent." The moment those words left his mouth, Kai Lin's composed expression shattered. Her earlier surprise instantly transformed into genuine shock. The Du-Chi continent. That was a place separated by planar barriers, far removed from the Great Thousand World. Very few here even knew of its existence. How could the ancestor of the ancient heavenly serpent know so precisely where she came from? Seeing her stunned expression, the old man chuckled softly. "There is no need to be so astonished," he said. "The birthplace of the ancient heavenly serpent is precisely the Du-Chi continent. I, like you, was born there." For a brief moment, the desolate inheritance space seemed to grow heavier. A being ranked among the heavenly ranking divine beasts of the Great Thousand World had originated from the Du-Chi continent. As their conversation continued, fragments of ancient history, long buried beneath time, were slowly unveiled. Tens of thousands of years ago, after the first Do-Di shattered the shackles of the plane and ascended from the Du-Chi continent into the Great Thousand World, he opened a path that others would follow. One by one, more Do-Di broke through the planar barrier and arrived in this vast higher realm. Among those pioneers was the very ancestor of the ancient heavenly serpent seated before her. Those ascended Do-Di did not wander aimlessly. Instead, they united. On the relic continent, they established a powerful sect, an organization composed of dozens of Do-Di who had reached supreme-level power after arriving in the Great Thousand World. In that era, such a force was no minor presence. It stood as a dominant giant across the relic continent, its name shaking the land and deterring countless factions. For a time, it seemed as though the glory of the Du-Chi continent had been reborn in a higher world. But history was never so simple. However, glory never lasts forever. Before long, conflict erupted between their sect and another colossal power native to the relic continent. What began as friction over territory and influence soon escalated into open hostility. Battles broke out again and again. The skies shattered. The seas boiled. Entire regions were reduced to ruins under the clash of supreme-level experts. At last, the tension culminated in a decisive war that shook the entire continent. But in that final confrontation, their enemies revealed a hidden card. They summoned reinforcements from beyond the relic continent, terrifying external forces whose strength far exceeded expectations. Outnumbered and ambushed, the Do-Di, who had ascended from the Du-Chi continent, were pushed into a desperate struggle. They fought with everything they had. Yet even so, they were defeated. Blood stained the land. Heaven and earth trembled. Realizing the situation was hopeless, the surviving Do-Di attempted to retreat back to the Du-Chi continent through the planar passage they had once opened. But when they arrived, they discovered the passage had already been destroyed, severed, cut off completely. There would be no return. Encircled by enemies on all sides, nearly every Do-Di perished in that final siege. Only a handful managed to tear open a bloody path and escape into the vast Great Thousand World. The ancestor of the ancient heavenly serpent was one of those few survivors. But fate showed him no mercy. During his flight, he encountered an existence so overwhelmingly powerful that even he could not contend against it. Gravely wounded and exhausted, he ultimately fell here within this inheritance space, his resentment lingering for tens of thousands of years. Silence followed the end of the tale. "These bastards," Kai Lin's voice rang out sharply, her eyes flashing with fury. She had never imagined that the reason Do-Chi origin energy had been sealed on the Do-Chi continent, causing generations to struggle without hope of advancing to Do-Di, was the deliberate act of that hostile force. So it had never been a natural decline. It had been suppression, a calculated severing of the path to ascension. Taking a deep breath, Kai Lin bowed her head solemnly. "I am willing to inherit the heavenly serpent bloodline," she declared firmly, "and I vow that it will never be extinguished." The old man looked at her quietly for a long moment, then chuckled softly. "Huh, there is no need to rush the inheritance." His gaze drifted upward, as though looking beyond time itself. "However, since you are destined to become my successor, I do have one request. When the inheritance is complete, my remnant soul will fully dissipate between heaven and earth. Before that happens, I wish to return to the Duchi continent once more." His voice was calm, but beneath that calm lay something deep and immeasurable. "It is our homeland, after all." For tens of thousands of years, he had wandered far from it. Even in death, that longing had not faded. Kai Lin felt her heart tighten slightly. She nodded gently. She understood. This was not the wish of a divine beast. It was the final yearning of someone about to vanish forever. "Senior," she said after a brief hesitation, "with my current strength, reopening the planar passage would be extremely difficult." Seeing the old man's brows knit slightly, Kai Lin quickly continued. "However, my husband Xiaoyan is waiting outside. With his strength reopening, the planar passage should not be difficult." A faint glimmer flickered through the ancient heavenly serpent's aged eyes. "Good, good," he said with a slow nod. "Then invite him into this inheritance space. A man capable of becoming your husband must surely be no ordinary figure." "Ha! With such praise, I'm starting to feel embarrassed." A clear laugh suddenly rang out across the desolate world. The space behind Kai Lin rippled like disturbed water. A slender figure stepped out from the folds of space, black robes swaying gently as if untouched by the oppressive aura within the grand array. It was Xiaoyan. His presence was calm, composed, yet for some reason the moment he appeared, the air itself seemed to grow subtly heavier. "I had intended to go out and bring you in," Kai Lin said softly as she walked toward him. "I didn't expect you to enter on your own." Xiaoyan offered her a faint smile, then turned his gaze toward the old man seated upon the towering stone stele. There was no hostility in his eyes, but neither was there the slightest trace of reverence. Kai Lin quickly recounted everything: the origins of the ancient heavenly serpent, the ascended Dodi, the destroyed planar passage, and the sealing of Du-Chi origin energy on the Do-Chi continent. When she finished, she looked at Xiaoyan expectantly. Yet to her surprise, he showed no sign of shock, no disbelief, no anger. His expression remained as calm as a still lake, as though he had long anticipated such a truth. "I see," Xiaoyan said evenly. "Senior wishes to return to the Do-Chi continent for one final look. It is merely the last wish of one about to disperse from this world," the ancient heavenly serpent replied calmly. "After tens of thousands of years, one cannot help but long for home." For a brief moment, silence settled over the inheritance space. Then, the old man's pupils suddenly contracted. Without warning, Xiaoyan's hand shot out and grasped Kai Lin's arm. In the next instant, space shattered beneath his feet as he retreated a full 1,000 zhang away from the stone stele. The sudden movement caused Kai Lin's heart to jolt. Before she could speak, Xiaoyan's voice rang out cold, sharp, echoing across the barren land like a blade unsheathed. "I wonder." His gaze locked onto the old man. "Does this senior truly wish to take one last look at the Du-Chi continent?" A terrifying stillness descended. Or, a faint, dangerous smile curved at the corner of Xiaoyan's lips. "Are you preparing to guide the extraterrestrial evil race army to invade it?"